Another big story people are talking about tonight is Bill Cosby's release and the legal reversal that got him out of prison. Cosby is now at home in Massachusetts enjoying his second night of freedom. BNC's cameras were rolling this morning when Cosby left his estate in Pennsylvania. The 83-year-old was freed from prison yesterday. It happened after the Pennsylvania Supreme Court overturned Cosby's conviction for assault because of an agreement Cosby had with a prior prosecutor. For more on Cosby's release, we're joined by attorney Tom Mesereau. His past clients include Michael Jackson, Mike Tyson, Suge Knight, and even Bill Cosby. Welcome to BNC, Tom. You've had an illustrious legal career, yet you call Bill Cosby's second trial the most unfair case you've ever worked on. Why is that?
Well, first of all, there was an ironclad agreement with a former prosecutor, and that was that he would not be prosecuted. And Bill Cosby and his attorneys relied on that agreement. It was a non-prosecution agreement. It was publicly expressed. It was in writing. And to have a new prosecutor who won an election suddenly decide he's going to throw the prior agreement out when that would not happen with anyone else was a horrible way to start this thing. But that wasn't all that went wrong. The prosecution did not file the case on time. They blew the statute of limitations. We had compelling, detailed, organized evidence to show that they blew the statute. The judge wouldn't even have a hearing on that. And if you blow a statute, there's no jurisdiction or power for the court to even hear the case. But that wasn't enough. The judge decided to let in the testimony of 5 other people going back as much as 30 years, uncharged conduct you can't go back and investigate. You can't get forensic evidence. You can't find witnesses. We had to go back 30 years in Las Vegas and other locations. It was utterly ridiculous. The judge was basically telegraphing that he wanted a conviction, and that's what he got for a while. But I think he has egg on his face today.
Well, he might have egg on his face, but a lot of people don't agree with, what has happened here. Obviously, it's a legal issue. I mean, is this the type of thing that you hear of often? It just seems so out of nowhere. Most people kind of shocked at this.
No, and the way it's being portrayed is very, very unfair. First of all, prosecutors make agreements not to prosecute all the time. And they make agreements sometimes not to prosecute and to shift the case to a civil courtroom. I've been doing that my whole career, trying to talk prosecutors into letting a case work its way out in the civil courts rather than the criminal courts. This was no different. The former DA looked at the evidence, got all of his police officers together, his investigators, his fellow DAs. They looked at the evidence very exhaustively. They decided it did not belong in criminal court.
But were you saying, was it in writing though? Was it in writing though?
There was a press release that was in writing. There wasn't a formal agreement in writing, but it doesn't have to be in writing. Any law student in law school knows.
Why does it not have to be in writing? How would you prove that?
No, they don't. They don't. One of the first things you learn in law school is that an oral contract is enforceable, particularly if somebody relies on the representations you make. This prosecutor made representations publicly and in writing. I am not going to prosecute Bill Cosby. And in return, Bill Cosby and his lawyers relied on that promise to give a civil deposition. And that's what the Pennsylvania Supreme Court talked about yesterday. They said you can't make a promise like that, induce reliance by the other party, and then someone else comes along in an election and says, I'm not going to follow it. Prosecutors are also supposed to be held to a very high ethical standard. That you don't just bait and switch, as the Pennsylvania Supreme Court described what happened. It was a great day for Bill Cosby and his family yesterday. It was a great day for the justice system. The Pennsylvania Supreme Court did what was right.
Have you actually talked to Bill Cosby or any of the legal team since this all came down in the last day or so?
I didn't have time to talk to him the last few days. He was obviously very, very busy. I talked to people around him, and apparently he's doing very well. You know, this is a man of stellar character. This man, let me tell you what he did. He's 83 years old. He's legally blind. He was in prison. They told him he could get out on parole very easily if he would express remorse and take some courses in the prison. He refused. He said, keep me in for 10 years. I don't care what my age is. I'm not going to admit to something I never did. This is a man with very strong character.
But what about these 60 women who claimed they were drugged and assaulted? 60 women.
Well, I'm not going to comment on them. Let me ask you this. If their claims were so compelling, why didn't anybody bring a criminal case on those claims?
Well, for obvious reasons, we had the statute of limitations. Obviously, he was a powerful figure. I mean, there's so many reasons. I'm not going to debate for them, obviously. I'm just letting you know that there are people who are angered by this, and they say that these women are not given justice. So what do you say to them?
I say that the justice system is supposed to treat all of us fairly, no matter your celebrity, your race, your occupation, your politics. Everyone is supposed to be entitled to due process. He was denied due process, and now the Pennsylvania Supreme Court has given him due process, and he is free and cannot be prosecuted again for this allegation.
But what about him in the civil suit, in the deposition, talking about the fact and talking about these women that he had been with? People saying that he actually admitted to this.
A lot of that has been taken out of context. People are quoting certain portions of the deposition. They're not quoting the portion when he says all of these encounters were consensual. And that's what he said in the deposition.
Okay, but again, it sounds like he's off on a technicality, and it sounds like he's getting off because he has the money to have lawyers who can keep moving forward and pushing this. The average person couldn't do this, could they?
It's not a technicality at all. The first DA investigated the case, talked to witnesses, looked at the evidence, gave a substantive review of what this case was about, and made a substantive, not a procedural decision, a substantive decision based on the evidence that this case should not be prosecuted. This is not a technicality. It's the Pennsylvania Supreme Court enforcing an agreement by a district attorney who said this case didn't belong in a criminal courtroom.
But again, I say the average person could not continue with a legal case with high-profile attorneys to continue moving this forward. So I ask that this is not the typical case then. He was able to do this because of his celebrity and money moving forward. That's what people are saying.
Well, I think they're wrong because he was prosecuted in a very unjust fashion because he's a celebrity, because he has fame, and because he has wealth. I call it celebrity injustice. He was treated differently because of his celebrity and his wealth. He became a target, and he became a political target. In fact, the DA who went after him in the courtroom ran ads while he was running for district attorney that if elected, I'll go after Bill Cosby. That's not the way the ordinary citizen is treated, and I think he was victimized because of his wealth and because of his celebrity, just like Michael Jackson was.
Okay, let's listen to what one of the victims had to say.
Bill Cosby did this, and he's free. It's the money and the power that has Bill Cosby at home right now. He was able to afford to pay all of these attorneys to work all these years to free him, and he admitted to doing this act.
So when you hear women coming forward and speaking openly, what purpose would they have? What would they be getting out of this? So many of them saying the same type of story. And again, he admitting that he had been with several of these women.
Well, he's admitted that he was with several women, and he's admitted that it was consensual. He has denied repeatedly doing anything illegal or improper. That's the Bill Cosby I know. I'm not going to comment on the accusers. It's a free country. They have a right to say what they want. But Bill Cosby has always maintained to me that he's innocent. He's refused to admit responsibility for something he says he didn't do that was wrong. He went to prison. He could have gotten out early because of his age and because of his blindness. He refused to express remorse for something he says he didn't do. I know Bill Cosby, and Bill Cosby has always represented to me that he did not break the law at any time and that these encounters were consensual. That's what I know.
Well, Tom, we would certainly love to hear from Bill Cosby himself. Please extend our invitation for him to come on BNC and let everybody hear his side of the story. But thank you so much for joining us this evening, Attorney Tom Mesereau. Appreciate your time.
Thank you for inviting me. I appreciate it.
And actress Phylicia Rashad is best known as Bill Cosby's co-star on The Cosby Show. Her tweets showing support for Cosby is dividing social media. Some proclaimed by Phylicia, while others agreed with her. Today, she assumed the role of Dean of Fine Arts at Howard University, and the school swiftly disavowed Rashad's sympathetic tweets, saying it lacks sensitivity towards survivors of sexual assault. Howard says those survivors will, quote, always be our priority. Lots more ahead for you. A growing rift in the Republican Party as the House readies to investigate the January 6th attack on the Capitol. Coming up, what House GOP leader Kevin McCarthy has to say to his caucus members who are considering joining Democrats on this venture. Stay with us. You're watching BNC.